my god. You're so awesome, Lawrence Lim.
It's Lawrence Lim with the W.
So a rabbit, having lived his entire life in a lab, finally managed to break free from its confines. As he scampered away from the compound, he felt the grass under his little feet for the first time and saw the dawn breaking. Wow, this is great, he thought. Before long, he came to a hedge, squeezed under it, and was greeted by a wonderful sight. Lots of other bunny rabbits, all free and nibbling on the lush grass. "Hey," he called out. "I'm a rabbit from the laboratory and I've just escaped. Are you wild rabbits?" "Yes, come and join us," they cried. Our friend hopped over to them and started eating the grass. It tasted so good. "What else do you wild rabbits do?" he asked. "Well," one of them said, "you see that field there? It's got carrots growing in it. We dig them up and eat them." He couldn't resist and spent the next hour eating the most succulent carrots. They were wonderful. Later, he asked again, "What else do you do?" "You see that field there? It's got lettuce growing in it. We eat that too." The lettuce tasted just as good, and he returned a while later completely full. "Is there anything else you guys do?" he inquired. One of the other rabbits came closer and spoke softly. "There's one other thing you must try. You see those rabbits there?" he said, pointing to the far corner of the field. "They're girls. We mate with them. Go and try it." Well, our friend spent the rest of the morning pursuing this new adventure until, completely exhausted, he staggered back to the group. "That was fantastic," he panted. "So, are you going to live with us then?" one of them asked. "I'm sorry. I had a great time, but I can't," he replied. The wild rabbits all stared at him, a bit surprised. "Why? We thought you liked it here." "I do," our friend said, "but I must get back to the laboratory. I'm dying for a cigarette." So Bob went to see his doctor for a routine checkup. Upon inspection, the doctor seemed perplexed and insisted on carrying out some tests. After the initial tests, the doctor had a furrowed brow and a look of concern on his face. "What's the issue, doctor? Is there something wrong?" asked Bob. The doctor claimed he had a sinking suspicion, but wanted to perform a few more tests. Eventually, the results came back, and the doctor sat Bob down for a serious chat. "I'm going to be honest with you, Bob. It's not good news, I'm afraid. It seems you have a very rare disease known in the medical field as Yellow 84. Only 84 people have ever been known to have this disease, and every single one of them turned yellow just before they died. I regret to inform you that you don't have long left, so it would be wise to start making preparations." Bob walked out of the doctor's office, determined not to let this information bog him down. In a defiant mood, he decided to buy a scratch card, thinking he had little to lose. To his surprise, he won £10,000. Buoyed by this luck, he bought a lottery ticket for that night's draw and headed home. He ran home to give his wife the good and bad news. They had just won a pot of money, but their time together was now limited. They agreed that life really is too short and decided to make the most of the time they had left. While planning how to spend their windfall, the lottery numbers were announced, and Bob had won the jackpot of £5 million. With their newfound wealth, Bob and his wife planned holidays and cruises to all the places they'd always wanted to see. They spent a couple of months traveling, taking in the wonders of the world and enjoying their time together. Bob also bought his wife a new car, paid off the mortgage, and ensured she would have everything she needed after his imminent passing. After their long trips, they returned to normal life and decided to visit a bingo hall one night. There, Bob managed to win the first line, the second line, and the full house. In fact, he won every prize offered that night. He went up to the window to collect his winnings, and the prize master looked at him and said, "I know you. You're becoming pretty famous. First, you win £10,000 on a scratch card. That same day, you win a further £5 million on the lottery, and you've just won every prize in this bingo hall tonight. You must be the luckiest man alive." At this, Bob narrowed his brow and yelled, "Lucky? You think I'm lucky? I'll have you know, I have yellow 84. His shout echoed through the room. The prize master lowered his head for a second before snapping it back up, eyes wide, and said, "Did you say you have yellow 84? Congratulations, you've won the raffle as well." So Larry gets home late one night and his wife, Linda, says, "Where in the hell have you been?" Larry replies, "I was out getting a tattoo." "A tattoo?" She frowned. "What kind of tattoo did you get?" "I got a $100 bill on my privates," he said proudly. "What the hell were you thinking?" she said, shaking her head in disdain. Why on earth would an accountant get a $100 bill tattooed on his privates? "Well, 1. I like to watch my money grow. 2. Once in a while, I like to play with my money. 3. I like how money feels in my hand. And, lastly, instead of you going out shopping, you can stay right here at home and blow $100 anytime you want." So a man rents a room and pays extra on the condition the landlady prepare his work lunch every day. So on the first day, she packs him a sandwich, a normal sandwich bread, using the last night's leftovers of meatloaf, adding in some fruit and a bottle of soda. When he comes home, he politely tells her that it wasn't quite enough food for him. The next day, she makes 2 sandwiches with turkey this time, and adds a container of salad, some crackers and peanut butter, and a slice of cake. That night, he told her most apologetically that while the food was delicious, he found himself still hungry, and could she possibly put in a little more tomorrow? The next day, she uses long slices of sourdough bread to construct a pair of huge sandwiches, and includes crackers and peanut butter, chips and dip, and veggies and ranch dressing, and a whole 2 liters of soda. That night, he smiles very kindly and tells her it was almost enough food. The next day, throwing caution to the wind and idly wondering if she's feeding his entire workplace, she cuts a loaf of bread in half and stuffs it with pounds of meat and cheese, an entire head of lettuce, tomatoes, other vegetables, sauces, everything. That night, he fixes her with a dry look and says, "So, I see we're back down to 1 sandwich." So Chen Li gets a new job on a building site and is doing really well. After a couple of weeks, he calls in sick. The boss asks him what's up, and he says he's too stressed with work and home and his kids acting up and just life in general. The boss says, "You know, Chen, when I'm really stressed, I cuddle up to my wife, nuzzle in her ear, and then give her a damn good screwing. Always distresses me like nothing else can." After lunch, Chen turns up on site with a big smile on his face. The boss says, "Hi Chen, glad you could make it. How are you so happy now?" Chen says, "I took your advice. You got nice house." So this guy bought a car, and being a practicing Catholic, decided to ask his priest to bless it. So the priest prayed and sprinkled some holy water over it. Then he gave him a rosary and a statue of the Holy Virgin to place in the car. A Buddhist bought a car and asked a monk to bless it. The monk burned some incense and chanted some sutras over the car. Then he gave the guy some prayer beads and a statue of the Buddha to display in the car. A Jew bought a car and asked his rabbi to bless it. The rabbi said some prayers over it and gave the driver a tallit to place in the car. Then he took a hacksaw, went to the back of the car, and sawed off a small portion of its tailpipe. So a blonde was traveling abroad and wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. She tried to ask people and found a policeman who agreed to help her. She asked him, "Sorry, how do I get from here to the Eiffel Tower?" The policeman replied, "Wait for bus 37 and get on it. It'll take you there in 10 minutes." The blonde thanked the policeman and he left. Hours later, he happened to go by the same place he left the woman, just to see the blonde is still there. "Why are you still here?" The policeman asked. "I left you 4 hours ago and you haven't boarded the bus?" "Oh, don't worry," she replied. "Just a moment ago, the 30th bus passed. There are only 7 left to go." So, Sophie had just gotten married, and being a traditional Italian, on her wedding night, staying at her mother's house, she was nervous. But her mother reassured her, "Don't worry, Sophie. Mike's a good man. Go upstairs, and he'll take care of you." So up she went. When she got upstairs, Mike took off his shirt, exposing his hairy chest. Sophie ran downstairs to her mother and said, Mom, Mike's got a big hairy chest." "Don't worry, Sophie," said her mother. "All good men have hairy chests. Go upstairs. He'll take good care of you." So, up she went again. When she got up in the bedroom, Mike took off his pants, exposing his hairy legs. Again, Sophie ran downstairs to her mother. Mom, Mike took off his pants, and he's got hairy legs." "Don't worry. All good men have hairy legs. Mike's a good man. Go upstairs, and he'll take good care of you." So, up she went again. When she got there, Mike took off his socks, and on his left foot, he was missing 3 toes. When Sophie saw this, she ran downstairs. Mom, Mike's got a 1.5 feet. "Stay here and stir the pasta," said her mother. "This is a job for Mom." So, a young lady in the maternity ward just prior to labor is asked by the midwife if she would like her husband to be present at the birth. "I'm afraid I don't have a husband," she replies. "Okay, do you have a boyfriend?" asks the midwife. "No boyfriend either." "Do you have a partner then?" "No, I'm not attached. I'll be having my baby on my own." After the birth, the midwife again speaks to the young woman. "You have a healthy, bouncing baby girl, but I must warn you before you see her that the baby is black." "Well," replies the girl, "I was very down on my luck, with no money and nowhere to live, and so I accepted a job in an adult film. The lead man was black." "Oh, I'm very sorry," says the midwife. "That's really none of my business, and I'm sorry that I have to ask you these awkward questions. But I must also tell you that the baby has blonde hair." "Well, yes," the girl again replies. "You see, the co-star in the movie was this Swedish guy." "Oh, I'm sorry," the midwife repeats. "That's really none of my business either, and I hate to pry further, but your baby also has slanted eyes." "Yes," continues the girl. "There was a little Chinese man also in the movie. I really had no choice." At this, The midwife again apologizes, collects the baby and presents her to the girl, who immediately proceeds to give the baby a slap on the butt. The baby starts crying, and the mother exclaims, "Thank God for that." "What do you mean?" says the midwife, shocked. "Well," says the girl, extremely relieved, "I had this horrible feeling that she was going to bark." So a monk, a nun, and a priest all suddenly die in a fire and found themselves standing before God. "You are all going to hell," God announced. "Despite your dedicated lives, you still had sins that you did not repent for." However, God was willing to allow them to choose their eternal punishment and said, "I will allow you to choose your eternal punishment. Select 3 different things that I find the most terrible that humans have experienced under me to happen to you forever." The monk spoke first. "I choose to be ill with a plague, to be a slave, and to live in darkness." He then teleported to hell. The nun spoke second. "I choose to be nailed to crosses, to walk for years in boiling hot land, and to drown in a flood." She then teleported to hell. Finally, it was the priest's turn. He thought for a moment and said, "I choose to always have beer, weed, and hookers." So Bob was in big trouble. He forgot his wedding anniversary. His wife was really angry. She told him, "Tomorrow morning, I expect to find a gift in the driveway that goes from 0 to 200 in 6 seconds, and it better be there." The next morning, he got up early and left for work. When his wife woke up, she looked out the window, and sure enough, there was a box gift wrapped in the middle of the driveway. Confused, the wife put on her robe and ran out to the driveway, brought the box back in the house. She opened it and found a brand new bathroom scale. Bob has been missing since Friday. So a man loses his legs in a bear fight. Despite this, he wins the fight and uses the bear's legs to replace his own. By the time he gets to a hospital, he has full control over his legs. The doctors tie the legs better and let him keep them. About a month later, a ringmaster of a freak circus finds him and offers him a job in the circus. He accepts, and a few months later is ready for his first act. He walks in front of the audience and loudly exclaims, "I will now walk over these hot coals with bare foot."
I heard a rumor through the grapevine so bold. Lawrence Lim got a million stories untold. From green jokes, conspiracies, and edits with flair. You gotta follow him, baby, if you dare. Your feet feels empty without his magic touch. You got the blues and the laughs that you crave so much. With a click and a follow, you'll find some relief. Lawrence Lim, social media, a digital belief. Click, subscribe, don't miss a trick now. Hey, leave your worries and come on, click today. Lawrence Lim's got the content right in line. Follow him now.